Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai.
Hello, all my listeners out there and everyone out there in the universe. This is your host Flex with Quantum Med, and today we're in for another spectacular show. We also even have like an audience out here. We have people out here from New York. Hello. All right. Jacksonville, Florida in the house. And we got Argentina over there. So, we got everyone in the house, and which is great, you know what I mean? This is all about community. So, whenever you have this opportunity to unite and have community, participate in discussions, this is what it's all about. To my right here, you know what I mean? To my left, to your right in the screen is Sky Hardison. Okay, my co-host here. Hello, Sky.
Hello.
I'm blessed. How are you today?
Oh, I'm blessed too.
Good. Love all day. And then here to my right here is the most lovely Michele.
Hi.
Hello, welcome Michele here, guys. So this is incredible, and glad to have everybody here. Today is going to be a very interesting show. We're going to talk a little bit about we're going to be interviewing Michele. Michele is a phenomenal holistic practitioner, and we're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to open up to our audience so they can also ask some questions, and we're going to give you guys some great answers. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to welcome Michele. Michele, say hello.
Hi everybody, my name is Michele. I'm a holistic prophetic life coach, and I'm here to answer any questions, talk about, I think Flex is going to interview me, and I will do my best.
I have a question for you. Okay, so what do you mean by prophetic life coach? I think that's kind of like a big word, right? When people think of prophecy, what does that mean for you, and how does that incorporate to your practice?
Great question. So on my journey, I discovered that I was PSYCHIC. I don't like to use the word anymore because as I align with Christ consciousness, it hasn't resonated with me. But my mentors have taught me that I have the gift of prophecy as discussed in the Bible. And so now I feel comfortable using the word prophetic instead of psychic, which is a universal term, to describe what I do. But it's very similar to what you would experience if you went to see a psychic, except that it's more based in holistic practices. So I will get information about your nutritional wellness, relationships. It's similar to a psychic, but maybe a little bit more in-depth and guided, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But the whole psychic thing scares a lot of people.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. And
it's like a trigger, right?
Yes, actually. And especially with traditional Christianity, like in the Christian church, if you read about Christian spiritual awakening, people with a psychic, who I guess market or portray or market themselves as psychic are it's frowned upon. And at first, when I read that, I was hurt because I was like, I have psychic abilities and these are gifts from God. And so what, I shouldn't be judged or frowned upon. But then as I continued on my journey, like it's about learning humility and how to align and what resonates with us, but no judgment to anyone who uses that term or, is out there marketing as psychic. But for me, I prefer to use the word prophetic. That resonates with me. And I think, in terms of Christian spiritual awakening, It is because of the historic negative connotation of the word psychic. Maybe it's kind of like a protection and not, more of a protection than a judgment. And also, I read that, don't see channelers or angry people. And I do, when I'm with a client, I have the gift of mediumship, and that's part of it. That's part of having the gift of prophecy. And a deceased loved one may come through. But hearing the word channeling can be triggering for some people and scary. But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's really a beautiful gift, and it's a beautiful gift of an openness that I have, and the willingness to allow energy to come through to give messages to loved ones who maybe are ready for change, ready for their healing journey, ready for awakening, and just need maybe a little proof that they're protected by the other side, or that there are these support energies around us, that our loved ones, death is really just a change of form and not a permanent, or not so scary and permanent, that we can actually communicate with our loved ones who've passed, that they're with us, that they're all around us. So I kind of am a messenger to provide comfort in that space.
Wow, that's incredible. So when did you notice that you had this gift?
So I have, since childhood, always, nope, just more this way. Since childhood, I've had,
Get you a little closer.
I've experienced strange phenomena, and I've had visions and premonitions, but I never really knew what they were, because I was so misaligned and disconnected because of trauma. So I had, my higher self was guiding me and having all these experiences, but my human self was not able to understand them. And so my whole life, my entire life, I was guiding others and using my gifts and having visions, not realizing what they were, just thinking that, I see that, and it's not a big deal. It's just, and my friends and family members be like, oh, that's so weird that you know that, or never making the connection. But when I moved, so I lived in New York City. New York City was very overstimulating for me, very grinding on my nervous system. And I lived there for 16 years. And it wasn't until I left, and I was in, a very toxic relationship, not only with my ex-husband, but with, I was in toxic relationships with friends. And it does impede on our abilities, no matter what they are, on our gifts, no matter what they are. When we have poor boundaries and we're not protecting our energy, I was giving a lot of energy outwardly. And so I didn't even know what my gifts were, where I ended and the next person began. So, and one thing I teach my clients is how to set strong boundaries and empower them to set those. But it wasn't until, so I finally met some practitioners after I finished chemo, and somehow I was doing acupuncture twice a week, Shen acupuncture, and seeing a Reiki practitioner who has very, same gifts I have. And I was lifted out of New York City, and I moved to Florida. I was only supposed to be temporary, but here I was able to breathe, and my gifts started to manifest, and I started to set stronger boundaries. I had to set boundaries with family members and my ex-husband and friends. And that's when I started to notice, oh my gosh, I have these gifts. And then I realized, wow, people have been pointing this out to me my entire life, but I didn't realize, and I didn't believe it.
And when did you actually start, your comment? So you went through this transformation, your youth, you realized that you had spiritual gifts. Energetically, you went through some toxic relationships, okay? And, knowing and realizing that those were toxic for you, and that you had this gift, and finally believing in yourself to actually be able to step into your own creative form of spiritual gift of awakening, to actually implement and do the things that you've been called to do all this time, right?
Yeah, so another great question. So it started with a blog a few years ago, and then when I came down here, I was teaching yoga, and trying to figure out how I was going to position myself. As the gifts started to manifest, I was like, oh, well, I teach yoga. I have these psychic abilities. I'm an energy healer. So how do I, and then things just literally naturally start to come together as I surrendered. Surrender is huge. And it's something that, surrender is a word. It's a concept. It's a thought. And it can be very ego-based, but choose surrender. I had to learn what that was. I had to learn what that was about my ego. And I teach my clients this too. True surrender is really going to a place, and I won't get too deeply into it, but it's really going to a place where we hand over the self as we know it, our existence, to our higher power. And that's when I was guided to start my company, and with little, it's meandering. So with little, because we're always monitoring the ego voice and determining, which is the ego, which is the soul, and that becomes stronger. That journey becomes it becomes easier, and we get more clarity on that. But this is a testament to, even being here is a testament to that I'm going in the right direction. Or going in the direction of my soul.
Fantastic. So how many years has she actually been in business now?
I've only actually been in business, technical business, for about 6 months.
Okay, wow, fantastic. Well, you know what I mean? Congratulations to you, you know what I mean, in your journey.
I have a question. So if, say, I were a client, right, how would this process work so people can have an idea as to like your process? Like, what would you put them through? Do you look at them intuitively? How does that happen?
So what happens is every encounter I have, there are no coincidences. So there's always an exchange of energy and a reason why we're meeting. And usually it's so there is a connection with the eyes. So once I start to perceive my clients, I begin to receive messages about them. It's really, a lot of it is already in their energy field, maybe their thoughts, something about something maybe they've been having an inner conflict over, maybe perseverating over. And the gift is that here's the answer that you've been looking for. Mm-hmm. It's really different with every client, but you can always expect a beautiful exchange of energy, a sense of peace, a sense of trust. When you're with me, you will feel maybe a surge of creative energy afterward. Very similar to if you went to have Reiki done or acupuncture, there's an opening. You also feel very protected and almost like a light. So I am also considered a light worker. So you may also start to feel.
Aren't we all like light workers?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're on a journey to light. We're on a journey. We're all about each other. So you will start to sense your own light, your own protected energy. And your support family around you, and then my clients generally will feel my energy with them, and the energy of agape love, which is unconditional love, and they will feel very supported on their journey of stepping out of their comfort zone into their purpose, creating, because there's a lot of fear around creativity just in general in this society. And as we create, we heal. And throughout that process, there are a lot of different phases and pieces. So there's trauma healing. So I do guided meditation, gentle restorative yin yoga, a journey through the fascia. I help my clients tap into how energy flows in the body and where they may be holding tension from past trauma, where they may be holding some emotion that needs to be released, and I assist in the release, and it's either done in a quantum way or in person, whatever my client is comfortable with, and it's all guided. So God will tell me this message needs to be sent telepathically, this message needs to be sent verbally, and
so let me ask you a question. So how would you apply this to like the mental health? the mentally ill, you know what I mean? How would you utilize, you know what I mean, your services, you know, for the mental?
Okay, so when I worked in recovery for some time, and I learned so generally we are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder. I personally believe all mental illness diagnoses are rooted in trauma. So the way to heal trauma is a journey through the body, a journey through the darkness. So we all need a guide for that, and a journey into the unconscious mind. So, for example, a certain diagnosis, let's just say borderline personality disorder, is a combination of behaviors that you know, researchers kind of collaborated on, put together, and created this label so that it would make it easier to treat this population. But it's really a combination of, and it's all related to trauma. So it's depression, hypervigilance, strong feelings of inadequacy. So ambivalence is also rooted in hypervigilance and a difficulty determining who to trust. And that also relates to trauma, neglect, and abuse in childhood. So we look at we look at the behaviors, we look at the emotions attached to behaviors, we look at triggers, we look at, and sometimes a client is not ready to admit that they endured abuse because it produces a sense of guilt against a parent or a caretaker. And there's this hierarchy of power where we hold our parents, our caretakers on a pedestal, and hence we never throw them under the bus or say anything bad about them. So we tend to protect our abusers. So it's a process, it's a gentle holding of my clients to help them realize how worthy they are and admitting that they've been wronged and hurt, and that it's okay, that it doesn't mean that they hate their caretaker or parent, or that anything bad's going to happen to their parent or caretaker, but that it's okay to honor that, because that is a stepping stone to our healing. The first part of our healing is admitting that we're hurting and that we sustained or endured this suffering.
Well, that's beautiful. Now, in you know, it's a great answer. One of the things that, you know, our audience needs to actually also know is that you came out of the system.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and like share, you know, a little testimonial that, listen, hey, I want to let everyone know out here that I was you. Okay, I was suffering from either depression or, you know, anxiety or abuse. And look at me now, okay? I've come out, and I've come out of the darkness into the light, but not only did I come into the light, I came into my own creative realm to now be able to go back and reach back and grab somebody else and help them along.
Amen. Amen.
And that's a blessing. So let's go into that.
So I always tell my clients, I don't know more than you. I am no better than you. We are a guide to each other. We're always learning from each other. But I've walked in your shoes. I've been there. And I was conceived by a mother who didn't want any more children. So I was, abuse started in the womb. She was contemplating abortion. It was in 1975, and my father really wanted more children. The neglect started there. How deep? I was molested. I was molested as an infant by my grandmother, and throughout childhood. I'm a victim of child sex abuse from really both parents. There was a lot of neglect, and it was not intentional abuse. Even the way you handle a child or bathe a child can be considered abuse. Or the way we handle or bathe or care for a child. My mother was sadistically abused in her childhood, and that carried over because that's what she knew, and that's how she didn't know any better. So there was a lot of sadistic abuse. I was sexually assaulted at ages 11, 12, and 13. I had another primary caretaker who lived with us, my father's aunt, and she left abruptly. So abandonment, sexual assault, invisible narcissistic abuse. I was in a very abusive marriage. I got cancer. So I survived all of these things. And now, and I've taken this journey because I really have always known that my purpose is to help others. And every time I went through a trauma, you know, a part of me was in denial about it and I'm just coping and surviving, but a part, you know, my higher self was driving the bus. And like, there is a greater, you have a bigger purpose, just keep going. And so I kept going because many times I considered suicide, many times, even in childhood, honestly. And I thought about running away, and we develop all these coping mechanisms when there's abuse and neglect and there's denial about it. And gaslighting is something I teach my clients about and help them navigate. But when, you know, gaslighting is when we grow up in a home that's very dysfunctional, there's addiction, abuse, neglect, but the parents are saying like, everything's perfect, you know, there's nothing wrong here. And out in the world, they behave very differently from inside the home. So no one would even know what's going on. And that's gaslighting. A child needs to navigate that. And it's very, and children are very wise and smart and learn how to manipulate their own minds, which can create traumatic brain injury, literally. Manipulate our own minds to navigate this trauma and create an environment where we can survive. So there are all these things that happen, like fantasy thinking and you know, wonderment and things that lead us to addiction, actually.
Wow. So for all our listeners out there, first of all, I want to commend you, number one, in your spiritual journey, sending nothing but infinite divine blessings to you in your healing journey, and not just what you've experienced as a child, but what you've went through, and the hardship of going through the innocence of that as a child is terrible. And the fact that you were able to overcome that is incredible. And, you know, through your, you know, divine, you know, the Holy Spirit and tapping into, you know, your Christ-like consciousness, is that you're able to overcome with your faith.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm sharing with everyone here is that through faith, okay, and her calling on that higher power to come and heal her, to protect her, to guide her, you know, through this abuse, okay, and to get her through this situation, this trial, okay, that she was going through to get herself, you know, to become who she is now today. And with that, what's happened is incredible. You have stepped into not just your own power, but the Christ-like power within you, not just to openly be able to talk about it, but to be able to communicate to all those who suppress this and who suppress the truth, who are afraid to speak the truth, even grown men who have experienced this thing or some form of trauma and are not getting the help that they need because they have suppressed it within themselves and tried to bury it. But all our listeners, you can't bury it. Okay, you have to deal with your truth. And with this truth, you're going to be able to overcome this truth, because that's where all these great people who are all here to help you with this transition, so that you can overcome anything that you have to overcome, any situation, any form of abuse. If any of you are out there who have gone through this and need to talk, feel free. You can call us here anytime, 561-270-2127. You could download us, email us at quantummed.io. You could talk to this lovely angel right here, okay? And just feel free to reach out. In this journey of life, right? You have come into your abundance, right? And manifestation and understanding that not only are you of light, that light always overcomes dark.
Amen.
So what I want to share with you is that those who, you are hiding in the dark, who are the abuser, okay? You will be seen and found, okay? You will have your judgment day, okay? So the things that you do for your behaviors, there will be accountability for your actions. So for every choice that you make, you are accountable and you are responsible for that. And one day you will be responsible for what you have done. And so, for those who have actually, overcome that, you know what I mean? We all have choices that we make every day in life, right? So the fact that you made the right choice, okay, to say choose life, okay, choose life. She didn't choose alcohol. She didn't do drugs, okay? She had thought about it. It's crossed her mind. Suicide crossed her mind, but she chose life, okay? And the reason why she did that is because she is the light, okay? And because she came into this existence as a pilot light, she's going to continuously radiate that light, okay? So you can't turn off the light switch when you are light, for everyone out there who tries to do that. Even when you leave here, you're leaving as a pilot light, okay? So you can't never turn off the light, okay? So for all of you who needed to hear that, we want to speak to you and speak that truth and say, hey, listen, we're here for you no matter where you are. You can do it. Okay, you can overcome it. You can overcome addiction. You can overcome alcoholism. You can overcome anything that you want to overcome. But because you have a gift, and when you were born with a gift. It was predestined. So let me explain it to you. I'm going to talk about predestined. They tried to strip it from her. They tried to strip her innocence. They tried to take her off her course. They tried to beat her up, okay? They abused her sexually, mentally, okay? And what happened? She's here right now serving her purpose. Because no matter what they tried to do, they couldn't take her off her course.
But I have to say it's also a choice. Like I want to go back to, I know Flex is saying that if you've done something bad, judgment day is going to come. But I want to say that it's not so much that, it's just like we're all human and we've all made bad choices. We've all done bad things. And you have the choice to change the trajectory of your life. No spooky man's going to come and like hurt you. It's not that. It's just that you have the ability to make a choice for something different, and harming others is obviously like not the best choice, but you have the ability as a human to make mistakes. That's part of our human existence. Like we're here, you make mistakes, you learn duality of life. We can't know what it feels like to be on top unless we've been to the bottom, so we have those experiences as a soul, and that's okay. You can get back up and you can make a different choice. Now you know what it's like. So now you have the ability, the free will to do what you want in your life.
Yeah, and none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, but God welcomes us. Like we're our own worst enemy. So that's why, to have a guide like any of us is a blessing, because we're reminding each other it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. We get back up, we keep going, we learn from them. So Judgment Day really means the day I'm making a choice. I'm going to take accountability. I'm going to get really super honest with myself. I'll tell you firsthand, shame is one of the most difficult emotions to overcome and navigate in the body. Shame affects us. It can lead to cancer. Shame, guilt, there are emotions. Shame is one of the most difficult because it's so incredibly difficult to admit I was wrong, to feel that emotion of being wrong. And it's really, it's really the ego that wants to stay in doesn't want us to overcome shame. The longer we stay in the ego state of consciousness, the more stuck we feel, and ego is really the devil in the world. He's stuck, but God will always welcome us. And shame is something I've really worked very hard on understanding, so I can help others, and navigating so I can help others overcome that shame. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It is it is a difficult emotion. It's a sensation in the body that is scary, but there's nothing to be afraid of. And with the right guidance, we can definitely overcome it. And on the other side of shame is just like
Abundance.
abundance. Abundance.
It's actually freedom.
Yeah, it's
Freedom.
Yeah, it's true
Perfectly
freedom.
said.
Yeah, because it's a freedom and also awakening.
Absolutely.
Okay, because you know, once you're becoming awakened to like who you are, and letting you go through life and understanding that it's okay to make a mistake. So mistakes might happen, but you got to continuously move forward.
Learn from them.
And you learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I wanted to also kind of like touch base on, and I'm going to open it up a little bit real quick for some questions and answers to our audience out here. And so we have some talented people in our audience and who are psychotherapists as well, working for children and things of this nature. So I want to open up the mic real quick to you and ask you real quick, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask her and some of the things?
Well, I love everything that I'm hearing. It's so awesome. You all bring like a sort of a different slant, I guess. I really didn't know what to expect. So everybody's bringing something very different. I wholeheartedly understand and agree with mostly everything that I'm hearing tonight. Some of it's a little bit, especially flex. Some of it gets over here for me. I'm like, wow, what was that? Some of it, but I loved, Sky, when you said, instead of like, karma's gonna get you, you abuser, you took it to you have a chance now, you have a choice. And I like to also take it to another place, which I think you kind of touched on, which is there's healing out there for you as well, right? We're all healing from our trauma. If you've done something like this, we know you have had trauma too, and we can help you as well.
Yeah.
So,
I always think it's like recycled. We only learn what we've seen, right? So we do things from what we've seen, what we've learned. We've been programmed at a really young age, so a lot of us have to go through deprogramming and learn another way of doing something, So it's just like at such a young age, we're programmed since like the minute we're born. Society is like you actually have to pay money, or just like there's so many different things that are already built in on a societal level,
yeah.
right? Like I can't even imagine what the kids nowadays have to deprogram from social media and all that stuff like that. It's really intense. And so we have it from society, and then we have the programming from our family dynamics. So, and a lot of those aren't the healthiest dynamics because they're learning from the generations before, and there's so much restriction and suppression, oppression, everything. So it's just like we're on the spiral of deprogramming and coming to our state of beingness, our sovereignty, and our freedom, right? And what does that actually look like? I think we're still really trying to figure that out. We don't really know what that looks like unless when we like astral travel, maybe,
We can like imagine it.
We can imagine what
is it actually attainable? Is it possible? Yes, it is.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because I want to say, like, even my ex-husband, who, as Flex described, someone who's very, very afraid, maybe not even aware of his own traumas, and would be considered a textbook narcissist. I don't even believe in that diagnosis because it's limiting. A narcissist is someone who's had severe trauma who just has unique, a different type of coping mechanism. Some of us are able, like some of us look at, we all look at things differently. It's about perception, what our truth is. So having empathy for everyone is really important.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, because everyone has their own spiritual journey, and everyone is actually trying to figure it out, right? But they have their own path. And, you know, with that, you know, as an example, I could even go back to, you know, just think about when I see, you know, parents in a household, right? And you see like a cycle of a man either cheating, you know what I mean, or, you know, on his wife or in cheating, then you ask yourself, well, where did he get that from, right? And who did he see, you know what I mean, carry out these kind of behaviors? And did anybody ever teach him, you know, the right way and set up? And a lot of people who actually go through that either had an absentee of either the father was not there or they witnessed it. And because of this stuff, they have their own journey and things that they actually had to heal from, because for them as a child, that was trauma. Okay, you know what I mean? And the fact that they have to experience that trauma, they carry this pattern, this not understanding into their current situation, marriage, girlfriend, whatever it might be. And so everyone needs healing.
Yeah.
Okay, and the fact that everyone needs healing, everyone needs a coach.
There you have it.
You know, so like, you know, like everyone needs a trainer, everyone needs a coach, everyone needs somebody, okay, that can help you and give you an awakening. You know what I mean? When it comes to that, and like, and coming into your higher self, your self-awakening consciousness and all aspects. And so, in saying that,
I have to tell you, God has guided me to my absolute 100 my entire life. Even, you know, when on my journey I met my absolute 100, my twin flame that helped me, you know, leave New York, leave my marriage. But Flex is definitely my absolute 100 coach. And because he is so egoless and a beautiful soul, just so celestial and righteous, and I just adore him. I always loved him. When I first recognized Quantum Med, I was like, technology for spirituality doesn't resonate with me. I don't know. But I'm so glad that I overcame my own ego and kept engaging with Flex and loving him, because I do love him at the end of the day. I always have. And because he is literally an amazing consciousness coach, and also the technology here is absolutely phenomenal. Because if you don't want to do psychedelics or you know, plant-based medicine, whatever, you know, there's a lot of drug-induced like spiritual awakening out there right now. You can come here and have a very similar experience, or you can do guided meditation. Yay!
I love it. High five. Which is great. So like, you know, and we could do it all, right? So like everyone here is so gifted and so talented, and you know, just really honoring and understanding and recognizing what everyone's spiritual gift is, right? So in community, right, we're all here to share. We're all here to share. We're all here to, you know, learn from each other, gain knowledge and wisdom, and build relationships based off of, you know, love and light, spiritual, you know, just spiritual connection. You know, connecting with one with no ego and saying, hey, recognizing and acknowledging with love, right? The universal language is love, right? And that's the one language that I do understand, and that is universal. And everyone who speaks from that, I don't care if you speak Swahili, if you're speaking love, it's all good. We understand each other. But if you're talking in ego, I really don't understand that language. I'm so difficult, I'm having a lot of difficulty with that. But you know, as we know, like love is definitely, you know, I mean, the universal, you know, language and the way to, you know, to go and connect. When I tap into one more time, when I talk about community, one of the things that I used to see when I go to different states is that the lack of neighbors, not even knowing who your neighbor is. Okay, so that's not community. Okay, so you guys out there who have a neighbor and you don't even know who he is, or you haven't even introduced yourself to your neighbor, go hug him. Go knock on his door and introduce yourself. Give him a hug and just share nothing but love, or just, you know, make him an apple pie. Okay, or do something. You know what I mean? Buy him some food, some groceries. Do something nice for your neighbor. You know what I mean, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, you guys gotta understand, because I know when I was raised, like, there wasn't one place that I couldn't go into a house and get a meal. I could go to my friend's house and sleep over. I could go to, my other buddy's house. My neighbor knew who I was. It's just like, and that's community. It takes a, what I mean, and your upbringing, it takes a good community out of love to raise all of our children, right? It's a village.
So with that too. Like,
Absolutely.
I think, so I grew up in like a Latin household, and so our house was the neighborhood house. Like, all the kids would come over to my house, but when we were going to their house, like, it was so different. Like, I think American culture is like so interesting, because my mother is Latina, she's from Colombia, and so it was always like, yeah, the doors are always open. You can always come in, and so I don't know. That's not really like structured in like American society, a whole lot.
Yeah.
People who grew up with like Italian families or like Latin families, or like African American, like that's part of the culture, but like the way, it's funny.
That is funny.
It's really interesting.
So
I grew up
listen.
in a very paranoid Italian family, so we didn't have a lot of company. Oh, really? Yeah.
That's funny.
That is funny.
So I can tell you guys a quick story. So, like, when I was a kid, I lived in like Connecticut for like 5 years, right? So when I was there, I was, the only, person of color, you know what I mean, in the neighborhood. But my neighborhood was like all Sicilians. So I think I knew how to make better Italian sauce than a lot of these guys. Going, you know what I mean, into the household, right? So, that's right? So when I used to tell people, they had pizza spots, and they're talking about, what they have, and I was like, okay, can you make me some Italian fries? I was like, maybe some Italian fries. Like, what's that? I said, how do you not know what Italian fries are? Aren't you Italian? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't even know what Italian fries are.
Some sauce, and sauce, Italian fries. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Stromboli. You know what I mean? It's amazing. So we're like, hey. But with that, what it does is actually just gives you culture. You know what I mean? So the more diverse neighborhoods that you go up in, and I travel naturally, and so those are some of the things that are really beneficial to everyone when it comes to that. Anyone else have any more questions that they'd like to ask? I know. Yeah, I think you have a question. I can just see it in you.
I just want to shout out to my son's birthday is tomorrow.
Okay, all right, great. What's his name?
Mackie,
Mackie?
and
What's his last name?
I'm not going to say it, but I will tell you that he is full of love and light.
Okay, Mackie. Your mom says happy birthday to you.
How old are you turning?
22. He's in New Orleans right now. That's where you're from.
Yeah, well, I live there now. Yeah, that's so crazy.
I saw that. And I was just wondering, just if I could, Flex, how did this product come out all together, or this quantum physics location here in Delray?
How did this come together?
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay. So basically, how did this thing all come together with quantum and quantum tech? So when I went out to California, I went out there in Santa Monica at that time. Just got done, transactions of selling gems. And the last one was like in Buckhead. I went up to Santa Monica. I ran across a guy, and I was down there training a friend of mine's daughter because I used to be an athlete. I was an athlete at Ohio State. And so when I was training them, they were like, hey, this guy comes up to me randomly and he gives me this bracelet. And then the bracelet said 666. Right on the bracelet. No, yeah, 66, right? Yeah,
666.
I think it was like, you don't remember. She's like, oh, right? I said 66. So like, I was like, okay, what's this? You know what I mean? He's like, man, we really need you. So then I got a call from another guy, and him and Kobe Bryant, and they were like, hey, we need you out here. So I was like, can you come out to California? I was like, sure, I had nothing to do. Sure, why not? I went out to California. And then I was up there at the top of Santa Monica stairs, and I was working out, training, professional tennis player. And as I was doing that, all of a sudden, Dr. Christy Cote, Gisela Carta, a rabbi, all walked up to me, and they looked at me, and they started looking all around me. Oh my gosh, look at him. And I was like, what are you looking at?
What
You know what I
do
mean? Like, you
see?
guys are checking me out. I mean, what's going on? I'm like, good? What's going on? So they're like, wow, I've never seen anyone that, look at him, look at the light. No, look at him. And I was like, so they said they'd never seen anyone that had light running all around him and running through him. So I had this white light that was just radiating with them, kind of like resonated. And they're like, okay, you have to come to my house and learn Akashic Records, Master Reiki, and you have to read the Zohar. And you have to go through Kabbalah training. I was like, huh? I was like, what are you talking about?
You didn't know what any of that was.
No, I had no clue. Okay, and they're like, and then you need to do some other things because you've been called to do all these great things, and you have to go here, and we need to do this now. Our guide told us to tell you now. And then I was like, okay. So I went along with it, had nothing else better to do, and then I started listening to that intuition, and then, you know, God told me to stay right here where I was at you know, the top of the Santa Monica stairs. So when I was there, I stood right there at the top of the Santa Monica stairs. And then in like 30 days, I had like 45 clients. And everyone that actually came to me because they all needed a form of healing. Okay. And then I just started like just healing, training these people. And
But how
bringing
did
all
you
these
know what you were
clients.
doing?
It was all intuitively, you know, given. God gave me this Christ-like ability to be able to do this and be able to see people's energy, vibration, and help move them through any situation that they were actually going through. It was like, it's a God-given talent and guided. So he guided me through this all the way through the actual process. And with that, when I learned all the other different things that I needed to learn, which I was taught, it taught me the codes. And then when I studied quantum physics, then I met Dr. Jeffrey Thompson. And then after I met Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, it was like another light switch, and it just kept going off and off and off. And then it all started coming together. And then I started predicting things like this young lady here.
Dude, it's crazy. I have to tell you when you're finished. No, because it's quantum. It's a constellation. There are no coincidences in life. But a few years in 2013. I felt right after my godmother passed away. She's my guardian angel. I felt a dark energy come in and up my right leg into my right hip. That's where I had the cancer, but this was like 4 years before I was diagnosed. And I started to see 666s everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a crystal me. Because I heard the 3 knocks. It's so wild that you're saying this because, but then I learned later that the 666s are a very God-guided number of people, and we're not. You know, it's just that we're here we're light workers. And
Can you explain what the 666 means? So that
actually, Lex can do that, but I know, I just learned.
Yeah, so that's fine. So then basically, you know, going on that journey, like I was sharing with you, so I went to Kabbalah Center. I studied Kabbalah, I went through the Zohar, I read the Zohar, and it was basically explaining to me everything about quantum physics. And I was like, wait a minute, this is true. And then I was reading it and I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is the codes to the Bible. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then what happened is, you know, started giving me all these different things, like the codes. And then my testimony was when I was 12 years old, I was frozen in church. So when I was 12, I didn't want to go to church at that time. My mom dragged me to church, took me away from playing baseball with my friends. So, you know, I wasn't paying attention. So when I went there, I was sitting there and my head was down, and all of a sudden, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I had no control over my body. And then he lifted my head up like this. And then Jesus just floated above the pastor like this. And I was trying to grab my mom, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. So at that point, you know what I mean? Literally, I was like, and I couldn't breathe. So I had no control over my body. And I was like this. I was just stuck trying to grab my mom, and I couldn't do it. And then finally, when he released me, I was like kind of like hyperventilating, like, Mom, did you see? She's like, oh, you have a Holy Ghost, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Hey, what's going on? So then at that particular point, I knew that, you know, I had this gift, but I also knew that I was not in control. And I had no control at any given time. And he'd come in and be like, that's it, you know what I mean? Lights out, it's time for you to go. So then, you know, next Sunday came around, my mom was like, you want to go to church? I was like, nope, I'll see you later. Ran off. I didn't want to do that. At the time, it was like one of those things where I was like, no, 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 no. I know Jesus is real. It's all good, But and then I just started, having all these different spiritual gifts that are started happening for me. So then I could start like predicting certain things that are actually happening. One time, like, we're at the, family table and the lottery was coming on. I was like, I'm going to tell you guys the numbers. And I called every number as it was being drawn, like, boom, 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 boom. And then I had all these other things that started happening. I predict it was going to happen, and it was happening. And I was like, oh, okay, I got some gifts. And then, I just went along my athletic route, at that particular point, because I was such an athletic guy. My dad played pro football, and I was like, all right, I'm going to just play pro football. I'm not going to do all this other stuff. But as I was trying to, run away from that calling, I can never run away from that actual calling, because I was called at that age to do what I'm doing right now. So all the other stuff in my journey was to learn to get me to this point where I'm at right now in the quantum, right? So quantum med, and what is quantum med? So what I realized is that, he gave me a lot of different formulas, okay? And so I was getting the codes and the formulas. I always knew that, okay, light workers. Oh, this person over here does light worker. This person over there does light worker. This person over there does light worker. There's a healer over here. There's natural medicine over there. But there's not really like a company, okay, or an infrastructure or a business model that's ever been really built that has everything encompassed in one, right? So to me, what I realized going through, and also, I had like an HR background where I ran my own HR consulting practice. I knew some of the things that were missing in corporate America, just with people, just off of my interactions and dealing with coaching and training. And I said, you know what? I was like, everyone needs this. I was like, when Dr. Jeffrey introduced me to technology, the tables that treat your homeostasis state, creative state, peak performance state of consciousness, and how you can track that, and hooking people up to heart variability, and how we're all sound and frequency, and 96% in the quantum, and then the universal codes came in with Kabbalah. I was like, oh my gosh, my mind was spinning like a mile a minute. And I was like, okay, I need to start quantum ed. Okay, because yoga, kundalini, consciousness coaching, technology, science is all geared around wellness. So what not better? I'm sorry, wellness. Okay, so what not a better way to put wellness underneath the brand of quantum med than to have science and technology that treats post-traumatic stress disorder, autism, depression, anxiety, and have FDA technology cheers, and to offer that to clients in addition to offer them yoga, balance, meditation, okay, tapping into themselves of creative consciousness and doing consciousness coaching, as Tony Robbins, where, it's just life coaching. I was like, no, it's not about that. When you have a higher consciousness, then you know what life is about, okay? Because you have to go through consciousness coaching and to get an awakening of consciousness to enjoy life, to see what life's about, and understand it and see it for truth of what it is, and then be able to understand who you are, okay, and what your creative gifts are. So in doing that, that's what quantum med is doing. So
I feel like it brings it all to, for me, this is how I'm interpreting what you're saying.
Yes.
I feel like it's the science behind all of this other stuff, right? The yoga and the spirituality and meditation, right? And but you're bringing the science, right? The quantum and the codes and the technology, and it's like it brings it all together, and it's something that some people really need in order to sink their teeth into it, because now you've got like some data behind it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because that's what I always knew that was actually missing, is that people think of spiritual light workers as the woo-woo.
Yes.
Okay? Yes. But quantum physics is undefeated, and science is undefeated. So when you bring science involved, when you bring truth, quantum, they're like, this is real. They read it. Oh my gosh, this is real. This exists. This is facts. Right. So you're giving yourself the facts, and you're giving people the awakening of truth. And when you speak truth through your throat chakra, and you give the people the truth, what can they do? They can't deny it. Okay, so you can't deny us anymore. You can't deny truth. you tried to suppress it years and years ago when Dr. Wright came out and everything else. And people were going to visit the doctor, and the doctor says, "Hi, what's your symptoms? Oh, you have a headache? How many pills would you like? 12 or 26?" You know what I mean? So like, it's not about putting someone on medicine or putting them on pills.
Denying.
You know what I
denying.
mean?
But I think also
Yeah.
like a lot of that, like they didn't have scientific terms to describe what was happening. And now that they're becoming more advanced scientifically, they can actually explain a lot of phenomena, right? Like science is everywhere. Like math is actually in the quantum field. You can, when you tap it, you can see numbers. That's why it's like, it's always been there. It's just never been explained, or they didn't have the know-how of how to do it scientifically just yet.
So let me tell you this, okay? So in actuality, they did. Dr. Wright actually came up with not just that.
No, I'm saying like I totally get that. I know that they, in some aspects, they did, but if you talk to most like scientists who studied in universities, they would tell you that like you can't explain it. And it's only because that's the way we've been taught. It's all been done like by books. Universities give you specific books that you're allowed to read to learn, right? And it's only the ones like Tesla and all these other scientists that went outside of the box to like really do the research on it. That's
well,
how
they went outside the country. Okay, the United States didn't provide you with that. Okay,
yeah.
But in Europe, okay, and all these other places, they were actually teaching quantum physics, and these people know quantum, and they know this is real, and a lot of them know that this actually does exist.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love Neil deGrasse.
Yeah, and so like, and now, if you think about it, when the FDA, the big pharma came into play, was when actually Ford made a car out of hemp. Okay, and when he made that car out of hemp, DuPont's, okay, they knew where he was going, so they wrote a letter, okay, and they eliminated, right, and said, "Hey, no, we're not doing this anymore. Sound vibrational therapy is a no-no. We're gonna actually like put no more marijuana. Don't legalize marijuana." Okay, because they saw where he was going.
People might get smarter.
Yeah,
if we
you know
do
what I mean?
this, and then they're gonna find us out.
Exactly. So like now, if you think about it, now you can make houses out of hemp, and you're not gonna have any insects. You know what I mean? You can make cars out of hemp. You can make chairs. You can make all types of stuff out of hemp. And so now they're knowing it. Now the truth is coming out again, and it's this new evolution of the truth. And that's to tell you a long story how we came up with quantum med and what we're doing with quantum med. So quantum med, we're opening up.
Totally forgot we were talking about quantum
Yeah, we're
med
talking
because
about
we
quantum
went
med,
off
yeah.
such a
Yeah.
sidetrack.
Yeah, it's okay. But it's okay. It's
No,
all
it's
good.
totally funny. It's just funny.
Yeah. But quantum med is a complete corporate wellness solution for corporations, okay, for individuals who are need rehab, therapy, lower back pain, pain management, etc. We have nurse practitioners. We even have regenerative healthcare, orthopedic practice. Okay, we have nurse practitioners. We have everything that you can actually ask for here at Quantum Med. Now, this facility here that we have here in Delray is one of 14 opening up in Florida. We're opening up 63 across the country. In Montgomery, Alabama, we have our first hotel, which we're launching for our veterans. So the VA, we're treating veterans. Okay, so which is a beautiful 75-room facility where the veterans will be able to go and get treated for sound therapy, yoga. We'll be doing a deprogramming, dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and everything here with that, because we have the technology to treat people with this. One of the other things I'm going to share is that even some of the great workers and behavioral technicians who are actually treating autism for our kids who have autism. We're actually finally coming here with the first technology that treats autism.
Really?
Okay, these chairs that you're sitting in right there actually do that, and because of that, we're scaring a lot of people. Okay, and because they're not really receiving it as much at first because they feel that it's a threat, but what they don't understand, this is something that you do in additional, okay, to help them come up with this creative with sound and frequency and really quantifying it and actually being able to track it with the actual proper data. Because a lot of these facilities are treating people with no technology, okay, no data, no analytics whatsoever. And now we're bringing that truth. So that's one of the benefits of, going with quantum med, and hopefully that answers your question.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I grew up with undiagnosed autism, and but high functioning. Once this starts,
High functioning autism.
Really?
well, ASD, there's a spectrum, but
I know that, I don't see that.
so healing autism, like the world is going, because people on the spectrum, I mean, we're all on the spectrum, but nonverbal, not able to communicate, once they begin communicating, the world's going to change. I mean, because this is a population that is very brilliant, very, very brilliant, not saying, but very, very brilliant population with answers to heal the world, honestly, to crystal children, Starseed children, indigo children. And they're going to, and they don't have
Social
fear. No, they don't have fear to say it once they heal, things that need to be said. So
Yes.
Well, listen, guys, it has been a phenomenal show. I want to thank everyone out here. I want to thank all of our listeners. I want to thank, the people in the audience here who actually came and sat and listened. And if anyone, again, has any questions, feel free to reach out. Website, www.quantummed.io. Feel free to reach any of us here. We have an outstanding team. If anyone wants to talk to Michele, feel free to go ahead. You can go ahead and reach her. You can reach her on her website as well. And we look forward to, speaking to you guys soon. And we love you all. Love, light, and blessings and peace to everyone, and gratitude and gratefulness. And thank you all, and tune in next Friday.
And to you. Thank you so much for letting us join.
Israel